Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Evil Empire. I'm your host, Evil Empire, and this week we have Grixis 8 Bolas on the feature. So, in this week's deck, we're looking to play a control game, and it's a tap out style control deck, although occasionally we do leave mana open on the other player's turn to be able to keep open some spot removal. I was counting before I started recording, and this deck has 17 different ways to destroy a creature, and a few of those ways will even involve, like, for example, with Bedevil, having that little added bit of flexibility of killing an artifact or planeswalker is really important here with this card. And so the theory behind this particular build of Grixis Bolas is I wanted to lean into the double-faced cards, the modal double-faced cards that came out in Zendikar Rising. And so we're playing 6 of the DFC lands, starting with Seagate Restoration, and also playing a pair of Hagra Mauling, and playing a Shatterskull Smashing, as well as 2 Spikefield Hazard. And I looked at these cards and thought that, one of the things that is always a big trouble, at least when I was playing this deck back in Standard, when it was in Standard about a year plus ago, that it would often flood out, and you just have to run a high land count in a control deck like this. And one of the downsides of that is just sometimes you flood out if you're running 26, 27 lands. It happens frequently, and you just sort of flood out and lose the game. So this will help us minimize the amount of times that we'll flood out. Although the flip side of that has been, at least in my experience so far, that you can sometimes have trouble drawing a land when you need to, or you have a tap land when you really don't want to have a tap land, or you have to pay a lot of life with the shock lands, for instance. Pay a lot of life with the, sometimes I've heard them called the lightning bolt lands. So that can be a downside. And one way that we try to offset that life loss a little bit, at least, is with the Vraska's Contempt. Earlier versions of this deck had something like Enter the God Eternals as a way to maybe gain a little bit of life, get a little board presence going. But instead, what I've leaned into more over the week is using a lot of red-based removal. So Bonecrusher Giant has been a huge boon to the deck, being able to take out a small creature of the opponent's and then put it on the board to make the aggro opponent deal with it. Has been something that's really helped out with this build of the deck. And then also one thing that's been huge for this deck is having the backup plan of Kroxa, just kind of hanging out in the graveyard. As we use point removal spells and board sweepers, we'll sort of just build up a big graveyard and then ultimately bring Kroxa back after the opponent has been top decking for some time. So it gives us another way to have some inevitability out of our graveyard, and just a 2-of with Kroxa in this particular build. Bloodchief's Thirst is really an excellent card in the sense that it has the flexibility to be just a 1-mana removal spell most of the time, and then occasionally when you need to, you can kick it for the 2 and 2 black, 4 mana total cost. Spikefield Hazard has been a huge revelation as well, because being able to kill that Llanowar Elves, being able to kill that Pelt Collector, or another 1 toughness creature that you might just need to get rid of, in addition to being a land that you can put down as a way to cast Anger of the Gods, for instance. It might be a convenient second red source. The Spikefield Hazard has been that for me several times so far. So overall, the mana requirements of the deck are pretty demanding, and so that's why I've tried to kind of take it in a certain direction, leaning into the red-black side of things a little bit more, and minimizing the amount of blue that's in here overall. To that end, I took out 2 Narset that have been in the deck most of the week, just because Narset is really hard to cast in this deck in particular, and in general, the mana requirements have been pretty tricky, and it just makes you realize how much you miss the Grixis Triome as a piece of important land to be able to string this deck together and make it into a really cohesive whole. Even just something like 2 of those Triomes would be really helpful in this deck. But at any rate, that's the Grixis 8 Bolas deck that we're working with this week. And let's take a look at it in the historic ranked queue. Yeah, this hand has 4 lands in it, a removal spell, or 2, or 3, whatever. Yeah, this is totally keep. Scarab God, hopefully that comes down eventually. We shall see. Is it worth shocking here? I don't really think so. I think I'm just going to let it go. Because I don't really have much of a turn 2 play. I can shock for the Bone Crusher if I need to, I guess. Alright, let's see what we're facing here. Alright, so Breeding Pool tapped means some kind of ramp deck, my guess would be. So let's play out a tap land and let it go. Okay, opponent is going to ramp, is my guess. Growth Spiral. Teamer. Interesting. So Teamer ramp of some variety. Okay, well if it's a ramp deck, let's get on board and start attacking quickly here. Next turn we want to hit a tap land, like Spikefield, so that we can shock for the Scarab God. Yeah, definitely a ramp deck, okay. So probably ramping into Genesis Ultimatum. Got some other tricks up their sleeve, let's see. Yeah, maybe a Phylath deck? They're grabbing basics, right? I mean, interesting. Do we want to shock for the Contempt? I don't think we do. I think we just want to tap land here so we can shock next turn to get the Scarab God down and just start beating as quickly as possible here. Get the beats going is what we want. Alright, let's see what they have next on 5 mana. Obviously we know that they have the land in hand, so we know that they are at 5. Could be Nissa here, in which case we are going to spend most of our turn contempting instead of Scarab Godding. No, just in a row? Okay. Yeah, we can exile that with Scarab God turn after next. Then they're not that close to escaping it. Alright, so we cycled the Typhoon, X equals 1, EOT. Alright, they're on their 7 mana next turn. Alright, nice. We can avoid shocking here. Okay, they're going to exile the Scarab God here with Chandra.
Is getting sizzled. I've got a burning desire to finish you.
Alright, so we're going to chunk out their life total by 4 again. We're going to Thought Seize them. And then probably hold up the Contempt. Boy, it's a lot of Uros, man. Get one of them in the yard. And then I guess we'll exile the other one when they play it next turn. Although they probably are just going to play Ugin, right? So, yeah, they'll exile our board and we'll play Ugin. Or, sorry, we'll exile... They'll exile our board and we'll exile their Ugin. At least the first one. Yep. And then we have Bloodchief's Thirst for the second one. Hopefully draw the last land that we need for Nikki B. Okay, so that's going to be an in response. exile. We still get to keep our 1/1, which is pretty sweet. They wanted to go for the high upside play, but we had the contempt. Okay, so that's a completely dead card. Not good.
My greatest creation.
Okay, so they're going to plus on this shark token here.
Axiomatic structure of reality.
Then on our turn, we're going to kick the Blood Chief's Thirst.
Flames burn beyond perception. Proceed in my
Alright, so they're one away from escaping Uro, which is going to happen next turn. And next turn, we'll get to play our 7-mana Nikki Bolas. Okay, so another Uro is just going to finish that whole cycle off. They're going to have to exile 2 Uros to get this Uro down. So maybe they won't do it yet. Seems a bit of a wishful thinking. Yeah, here it comes. They're already in their graveyard. Yeah, it's coming. Yep, here's the escaped one. Gets rid of both of those. Okay, well that's not terrible. I mean, we don't hate that. We can just put it right back there with this -4 ability on this one. Yep, cultivate. Oh, okay. Interesting. Do we bedevil instead? No, I think we just do this.
Look upon my omnipotence.
And then hopefully we get a chance to start plussing it next turn.
Suffer.
Who knows, though? Who knows what huge amounts of mana this opponent could use here? Alright, Nissa, that's not great for us.
We will not
But we can languish and bedevil next turn, I think. Yeah, we have enough black. We have 4 black to do that. Alright, so we lose Nikki B. See you later, Nikki.
God Pharaoh.
That's fine. We'll clean that up with the... Yeah, we'll clean both of those up. Alright, so first languish. Then bedevil. And then Blood Chief's Thirst on the Uro that they escape next turn. Oh, cripes.
Together we will
Criminally.
prevail. The land shall conquer you.
Alright, so new plan. Blood Chief's Thirst on the Nissa. We're going to have to let them have the Uro.
Forgive me.
Unless we can draw some kind of a second removal spell for this one for the Uro. Yeah, we did not. We bricked on a land. Alright, well then in that case, we'll just do this and, you know, go ahead and take 9 next turn.
I must seek comfort in the
Jeez
land.
Louise. Alright, this game's over and we've lost, but we'll play it out.
An opportunity to act rashly is the chance to fail. Ghost.
Alright, so we take casual 12 this turn.
My greatest creation.
Alright, well, whatever. At least we can make them work for it. Name odd. So now they'll just hit us for 3 and then plus the Ugin. But if they're anything like me, they're going to take their time, right? Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you cultivate? It's super necessary right here to get lethal. Oh, look, everybody. They found it. But not before a 3rd Genesis Ultimatum. That one was pretty meh. That was an underwhelming ultimatum. Alright, on to the next game. Yeah. Wish we had more black mana, but I guess 2 is good enough, and then we'll maybe draw the 3rd for Dragon God. Seems okay for the moment. We're gonna lead on this, because we need all the black mana we can get, and unfortunately we're gonna have to sacrifice this removal spell for that. But we weren't gonna, that wasn't gonna be good for a while anyway. Alright, so we'll play out the rest of our black mana. Get some red online next turn. Okay, feeling a little foolish about not getting the red online, but it's fine. We've got an untapped red here for no life, so we'll Spike Field Hazard that away, just like the Zendikar Rising limited environment was intended to allow us to do. So it looks like we're playing against another ramp deck here. Yep, there's the Cultivate, okay. So we will Bolas the Ravager next turn. Yeah, this will come in untapped because of this the Watery Grave, good. And that is nice because that's our 3rd black source, so we're on Nikki B next turn. We can start plussing on them. They discard a land. No, a Growth Spiral, okay. 5 mana Nissa would be my guess. Cav, okay, that's pretty good. What do they mill? Yeah, nothing amazing. They really didn't mill anything great except for the Uro, right? Which they can escape next turn. So how are we to proceed? Well, I mean, I don't dislike minusing the Bolas here. And then saving the Contempt for the first Uro. I think that's the way to proceed. Because they really can't get anything great back here except for maybe like, what, a Cultivate? I mean, it doesn't seem very good. So, let's just let them have what they want if they want to take the possibility of getting something back here. Which I don't know that they really do. They could just escape Uro, you know? See if they even use this trigger. Yeah, they're going to get back in Uro? Okay. Yeah, okay, they put the Uro on top of the deck. Do we attack? Well, they could be holding Nissa, so let's not attack. They are not holding Nissa. Okay. Now, they're going to have plenty of lands to sack to our Bolas pluses, but still, having them on that plus and just being able to untap with this Bolas is pretty huge for us. Because now, when they escape Uro, we just Vraska's Contempt plus, and they have to get rid of a land or a card from hand, so we don't actually hate our situation that much here, because yeah, this is just fine. Oh yeah, no, let's not do this first. Let's Contempt first, so that they have to do, like I said, a land or a card from hand is what we want to hit with the Bolas Exile. Come on, any day now. Okay, now we plus on Bolas. And then why don't we leave open the red? And we'll hit the next Uro that they play with it, and so it'll just go right into exile. Yeah, I still want to keep this back. Pretty much just don't want to lose this Nikki Bolas Planeswalker to a Nissa hasted land. Maspinep. And that's going to kill our Planeswalker. Yeah, okay. So we need a red mana. Okay.
No
Well then,
weakness
we
I
got at least
cannot
this, but
exploit.
I think we're pretty well done here. Yeah. Yeah, we're pretty well cooked here. There's not much we can do. So we'll just give it up. No need to play this out. It just gets silly from here. Three, two, one. Yeah. I mean, we've only got 2 lands. It's not great, but we'll see what we can do. Alright, Luris means that it's either Auras or more likely Rakdos. And they're also mulliganing for a better look here. So now we are going to get to go first, and I think we're just going to Thoughtseize them. Because they're at 6 cards, it's a little bit better even than normal. And it's already one of the most powerful cards in the format. Let's take the Supplier. That Supplier was probably one of the reasons they kept that hand in the first place, so good that we can get it. Let's put down red here. And pass. They're going to play the Arcanist or the Pyromancer. Okay, Pyro. So we'll Blood Chief's Thirst that. More black mana. Well, we already have 3 black. I guess more blue is fine. No, I'm pretty sure that was a mistake. I'm pretty sure I should have played that on black so I can get to 3 black. All right, well, search is pretty good. But I think we need to contempt this Arcanist. So let's get it before they can get any value. And that way we also put it out of the graveyard, keeping the event. Okay. Okay, so here's what we can do on this one. Now we can double spell. So we will pay 2 life, play this Search for Azcanta, and Bedevil here. So they have 3 unknown cards in hand and only 2 mana. So we're feeling okay at this moment. Now they've got the claim, it looks like, because they're going to their graveyard immediately. Nope, just the next Arcanist. Perfect. Yeah, we'll graveyard that. We don't need another one. We already have 5. Oh, jeez. Okay. Well then, in that case, we're just going to do this on even. Get rid of our 3rd Arcanist here on even. I always have to make special care about clicking for the extinction event. It's a big misclick if you do that one. Okay, Priest, and they can haste it, I guess. Think they'll do that? No, they won't. Okay. Makes sense to me. Yeah, we're going to library that because that's any action card that we want. Now, if they can play 2 creatures next turn, they can get rid of this, which is a problem. But at least we made them discard a card. We're getting a little bit of value off the ETB. They're only at 3 cards anyway, so getting a 1/3 of their hand here is pretty good. Yeah, that was useless anyway. Maybe they're holding a village rights here? Is that why they're holding priority? Alright, good call. So just for basically getting a couple of cards to hand. Yep, the supplier's pretty good for them. Let's see if they mill the Croxa. Okay, well that makes them attack with haste if they wish to. Okay, so now the Croxa is pretty much live, right? Yeah, it's completely live. Our own Croxa. How many do we have in graveyard? 6? Okay, so this will transform search. I think we just flip it then. And we should be able to bring it back this turn. So that gets the last card out of their hand. Then they bring that back their Croxa, but we have a flyer. So let's just graveyard it. 1, 2, 3, 4 black. I mean, we can just play it. We can get a little bit of extra value that way. No, you know what? Let's just get the unknown card that's under it. Let's graveyard it. And then flip search. Okay, Spike Field. Yeah. That is definitely good for later. But for now, this. Okay, so it was a Village Rites. Sure. Now we can attack. And then when they bring back Croxa, we're going to get rid of the Stitcher Supplier with the Spike Field. And we'll take 3 there, but we can also attack with our Croxa next turn. Okay, so here comes Croxa right down Croxa Lane. Predictable as anything, right? Next turn, we can transform our Ravager, and that should be pretty good. We can deal 10 damage to that if we want to with the -3 next turn, so. Now when the trigger goes on the stack, we'll get rid of Stitcher. So they won't get the extra value on the back end of that at least. Okay, so let's attack first. Get rid of that card in their hand. See if they want to trade. Oh, they do. Okay, cool. Alright, then let's just transform it and draw 2 cards. Because that's really good here.
There are none greater than my geniuses.
2 lands. Not what I was expecting. They can get back Croxa, so we'll discard the land. We'll be at only 4, though, so we won't be in great shape to get rid of their Croxa with anything but a minus on our Bolas. Which is probably how we'll do it. I mean, not that big of a deal to just have to minus the thing by 3. Yeah, we'll get rid of a land. And take 3. Okay, so let's minus and kill this. Because it's the only way we can anyway. They are not in a great position graveyard number of cards wise to be able to do anything about it. Let us do the Bone Crusher to their face. How can we hold up search here? Just by playing this outright. Hey, come on now. Yeah, no, there's nothing we can do on that score. Okay. I guess we're not holding it up then. Alright, so good. They drew a land and bought Luris and then played it. Perfect. Get rid of that too. Okay, so they're in a pretty bad spot here. We're feeling pretty good. We'll Nicky Bolas. We're just having the 4/4 body, basically. Oh my gosh, if we can get it out of our hand. It taps search for some reason. Thanks, Auto Tapper. As always, you're a champ. All right, and then basically they have very little chance of winning now. They're pretty much 95%, I feel. Yeah, okay, that doesn't really do a lot for them. Yeah, that's game. That's the game. Yeah, I mean, transforming the Ravager into the Arisen is a pretty good way to get some traction in a game. So that'll do it. Pretty good card when you flip it. Yeah, this is completely fine. This is actually a really good hand, as far as I'm concerned. We're missing a little bit of early removal, but we've got a couple of sweepers, and looks like we're up against another aggro deck. So that's good. Let's see if we draw another black and we don't have to play aggro mauling, because we might want to keep it as a spell, if possible. Okay, yeah, this is not what we want. This is a great start for them. Oh boy, yeah, they milled a couple of good targets for the claim as well that they undoubtedly have. Alright, we're just going to have to look to maybe Anger of the Gods next turn. And we can do that for no life with the River Glide. So let's just play this tapped. So we have the 2 for Languish later on 4. Croxa. Okay, we'll discard the Shadow Skull. We don't really need it. Take 1 from the supplier. Untap. Alright, so this feels really bad, but it is the only way to get rid of the supplier and also to not trigger it on the way out. That's not named Spikefield Hazard in our deck. And we're never going to spend a Vraska's Contempt on a supplier if we can help it, but I guess that's technically another way that we don't trigger it on the way out. Shocking for the Bolas next turn, or what? No, okay. They're going to hit us for 4 here, I'm guessing. Oh, okay, well then we'll just shock for the Languish, that's fine. And then next turn we can shock again for Bolas plus Thoughtseize. Alright, so they buy Luris. And we're going to do a few things here. So let's first of all lighten the load of their hand a little bit. Get rid of some of the things that we don't want to take with Thoughtseize. Like their Luris, for example. Okay, so they get rid of that. And then we take their Luris. Perfect. And they don't have the red for Croxa. Yeah, they're completely out of sorts right now. They can basically do nothing. Yeah. Okay. Easy ones, we take those. We take the easy ones too. Take the hard ones and take the easy ones. That's what I say. Take all the ones you can get. Alright, yeah, this is a keep. Let's take the Planeswalker. We might be able to get everything else with Languish. Alright, so why don't we take out the Alseid here? Or do we just wait How big does it get? It gets too big, I think. Otherwise, unless we, yeah. Yeah, the Pride Mate will be like 1.2 big unless we kill something. Probably the Alcid. Alright, so this grows the Pride Mate to a 3/3. At least. Because one from the Soul Warden and then another one. Oh, they're not even going to play the Pride Mate. Okay. Seems a bit strange. Alright, so if we Anger of the Gods, it's just the same. And we can save the Languish, I guess, for next turn. Yeah, because they lose the 1 devotion from the Soul Warden. Yeah. Get rid of that. Alright, we'll cycle this for X equals 2. Okay, gets us to Anger. There we go.
The immortal Nicole Bolas will be your end.
Alright, there goes Legion's Landing.
You have no weakness I
No attacks.
cannot exploit.
Gonna leave it back as a blocker. Spikefield's a pretty good draw here.
Let your weak minds crumble.
Yeah, let's take care of this. No attacks. Once again, keep it back for blocking. So the Heliod's not actually going to count until they turn it on for the ultimate ability. So yeah. And we're back to talk about Grixis Bolas. So this control deck was a pretty experimental one. And I have to say I learned a lot from trying to push the DFC cards in this deck. However, I don't think it really worked out the way I intended. The deck really struggles with having enough mana to cast its spells on time. Wanting to have double black and double red is a pretty big ask, even though we did trim some of the blue requirements from the deck. So overall, definitely a project that I was happy that I did, and certainly learned a lot about how to adapt this deck, which did appear on the arena.gg deck list dump. There was a Grixis Bolas list in one of the dumps this week, but trying to adapt this into best of one is always a bit tricky, and even maxing out with 7 different sweeper effects between Extinction Event and Languish and Anger of the Gods, we still just really couldn't quite keep up with some of the aggro decks, I felt like. So good experiment, but not something that I'd recommend playing in the current meta, and certainly with Sultai and some other decks being on top right now, this one in particular really struggles with not having counter magic if it does happen to face a control deck. So a difficult one, as usual. Grixis kind of hanging out near the bottom of the tier list, but was certainly a deck I enjoyed playing in Standard, and glad that I got a chance to experiment with some of the DFCs with it. So fun times, and I'm gonna wrap it up for this week. If you would be so kind, please check out the channel and like and subscribe if you haven't already. With that, it's Evil Empire signing off.